Hello and welcome, it's Deltia from Deltia's Gaming. In this video, I'm going to show you how to tank in Update 7. This is the T7 build Dragonknight Tanking. So if you don't know, changes to stamina while blocking, you do not regenerate stamina. And I figured out a way to maintain a lot of stamina, still block, still do all the highest content without needing any new pieces of gear. So if you're like me and want to step into the hardest, most challenging dungeons Imperial City has to offer, follow this build. I did these dungeons as VR15 with all the same gear that I wear in Update 6. Stay tuned, don't worry about stamina, we figured a way to change it, and this is how. Here we are in the lovely Imperial City. Not the ideal vacation spot in Tamriel, but it's really fun to play. So I've been working really hard the last week, testing my booty off so you guys don't have to. And we figured out a way to not have the stamina issues using this build. So let me explain a couple changes to the game. I'm going to go over skills, gear, and all that, but I want you to understand how we do this. Okay, so the first thing is, the meta right now in Update 6 currently is essentially to have a lot of resource regeneration. That's not possible by blocking, so we went a different route, which is having a huge stamina pool. So my main tanking builds are usually magic. Not so fast, my friend. It's stamina, yes. Why do I want to have a big stamina pool? Because if I can reduce block costing to basically nothing while having a huge stamina pool, I can then use an ultimate or Ancient Guardian to regain back all my stamina and even a tripod. So it almost costs me nothing to block. And that's how we pull it off. A change from magicka to stamina. It's also good because you're going to have to use a DPS set as well. More on that, I'm not going to spoil any dungeons, but you'll need to have a stamina DPS build. So I've been building the Butcher back as well. That's why it's taken so long. So essentially, real quick, you flip from magicka to stamina and you go off of not regen drinks, but food. Tri-stat food. That way you get a lot of stats. And you can even go health and stamina. The big change that affected this and made this possible is the update to, where is it at? Battle Roar. Activating ultimate restores health, magic, and stamina. Now before it was based on your max magic. Now it's based on max stamina. So when I use an ulti, a really high cost ultimate, I'm getting back almost 17,000 ultimate, or 17,000 stamina. So if I can block, and it costs me maybe 50 points every time someone hits me, and I have a pool of 24,000, I can last forever. And this is how it works. So I basically use some of the same abilities that I've used in the past. Think about it. It's a stamina build now. And I use different champion points, which we'll get to. But it's essentially the same thing. Chains them and bang them. So we got extended chains here. I like the range of extended chains, so I take that. It does cost a lot of magicka, but it's okay because you'll have enough magicka through Ancient Guardian, reduce magic cost, and using ultimates as a Dragonknight all the time. It's got that. And then we have the Taunt. The Taunt here is Pierced Armor. I like it because it does debuff physical resistance and spell resistance, so it frees up some of the DPS to use different abilities. And then we have good old Talons. I did take the Choking Talon morph because it does reduce their damage. So if I'm going to permanently tank on this guy, I want every advantage I can have. So a good, strong AoE damage debuff is needed in huge AoE situations. Went over to Sword and Board and Defensive Stance. I tried Absorption, the other morph, because it did get a buff. It just still didn't seem enough for me to take it over Defensive Stance. So what does this do? Why do I want to slot this in my main bar? Reduces block cost and increases block damage. You must have this. Now, in PvP or something like that, Dragonfire Scales will work as well. Ideally, this can work in PvP as well, because now, imagine Imperial City, essentially what it is Craglorn with PvP. Everyone running around and doing stuff. So you're going to need a main tank to tank and also to fight other players and not die. So it does work as well. You just swap in a couple different abilities. I didn't go with Green Dragon's Blood, and the reason why is because I get the major bonuses elsewhere, and having the extra additional healing receive is very, very important. So if you look at your potions, here, I use tripods. Where are they at? Here. So it restores magic, stamina, and health, and it gives you major fortitude, major intellect, and major endurance. So there's no point in taking Green Dragon's Blood with this 40-second buff. because guess what? You can almost always reapply it. So there's really no point. The extra healing receive is awesome as a tank. So take that. And then the ultimate that I use on my main bar, primarily for PvE, is Aggressive Warhorn. This is awesome, giving everyone around you more health, stamina, and magic, plus major force, increasing critical damage by 30%. So if you need to burn a boss, or you're running into a big group of mobs or enemy players, let's just do it. Let's just do it here. We gotta hear the sound. Yeah, Battle Roar 8K. I mean, come on, that is awesome. Warhorn is amazing. So to recap, chains them and bang them, using extended chains, blocking, and you can still block all the time, and then taunting with pierced armor. You're gonna talons when there's a bunch of groups around, and defensive stance is always up. That's going to reflect back casters, and then it's going to give you a chance to keep on proccing Engine Guardian to get back resources. So let's say your magic's all the way out and you have tons of stamina, cast defensive stance over and over and over again to get the resource back that you want while holding block. Let's say your stamina's out and you're about to die, cast Green Dragon's Blood. The whole point is to use abilities in and out based on what you have available to proc Engine Guardian for your missing piece. It doesn't know what it's going to proc, but every single thing is going to be helpful. And that's bar 1. Bar 2, okay, so I did change up some gear this time, and the reason why is you're going to need a lot of mitigation. So right now you see I have spell resistance and physical resistance 27 and 26. I think the cap is 33,000. I don't know if it's increased because of VR16, but let's just assume it's that. So with my champion points, this buff up, I'm at 32 and 31. Really, really close. So with a couple of champion points and a different changes, I'd be at the hard cap of spell and physical resistance. Trust me, you're going to want to get there. The reason being is these mobs hit hard, especially the bosses, and you need to be a tank now. So what I did is I went 7 heavy armor to compensate and also get that hardened armor. It gives you a nice bubble. It increases physical and spell resistance. It doesn't cost a whole lot and returns damage to enemies. It's a win-win. Now I do have the range taunt. The thing with the range taunt is I did take the magic morph, but you can do the stamina if you like. Remember, if you're out of stamina, you're dead as a tank. So I go on the safe side and take the magic ability just so I have a range taunt, because sometimes mobs are going to get away from you and you don't want to sprint wasting your stamina to get them. So take this, trust me. And the third ability is somewhat controversial, but it's Razor Caltrops. Now, Delta, why would you use Razor Caltrops? 6,000 stamina to cast this sucker. Okay, one, it asks as an AoE taunt. So throwing this out in an area and then single target taunting using talons, I've created so much AoE, so much threat, so much aggro, I'm pretty much not going to lose the mobs. The thing about Razor Caltrops is you want to throw it while going into a battle. So let's say the boss is in this corner here. I'm going to throw Razor Caltrops. It takes me down to 70% stamina. Of course, my little friend procs. But I'm also going to use a tripod right after. So let's say I'm really low on stamina. I mean, I just cast this thing a bunch of times. Boom! Use a tripod, I'm back up to 50% stamina in no time. So if you use it just once, throw it in there, use a tripod. Now you have those major buffs. Now you have a good area to aggro, and that mobs will come get you reliably. I think it's a must-have, even though it is a stamina hog. It does last for about 30 seconds, so you don't have to cast all the time. But it's a good way to get threat at the start of a fight. Another ability up is another debuff. It actually does hit pretty hard with all the stamina. So I can get a crit in PvP for 6,000 damage. So what does it do? It does damage. It minor maims them for 12 seconds. So Choking Talons does AoE, this does single target. Oh yeah, it grants more ultimate. That is super important because ultimate is the #1 way to get resources back as a Dragonknight. So you're going to want to keep this buff up on your enemy target. Don't spam it a whole lot because that's what you want to use Choking Talons for. But you can use this to do damage, and it actually does hit pretty hard, even in a full tank setup. Next ability up is the old Earth and Heart Igneous Shields. So the reason I use this is if it's an oh crap moment and I need to basically help other players, I'll use this. But you can also do a trick here, get the 30% healing boost, and then swap to Green Dragon's Blood. So what you can do is go Igneous, bar swap, Green Dragon's Blood for a monster heal. Now you're going to have to change bars a lot, so it's not exactly easy, but it's effective as you know what. And then also Igneous Shields does something as well. It gives us Battle Roar, it gives us a Mountain's Blessing, giving us ultimate, 3 ultimate every 6 seconds, and Minor Brutality, more weapon damage for you and your allies. It also gives us back 5% of our stamina. So if all else fails, we're out of stamina and we can't do anything, you'll just spam cast this thing. So let's throw caltrops down. Boom, stamina back. Boom, stamina back. Boom, stamina back. So basically you're trading magicka for stamina. Another well-known thing here is that with igneous shields going all the time, that keeps your Mountain's Blessing up. With heroic slash on the target, and then casting this over and over, you're basically going to be flooded with ultimate. Remember, popping that ultimate is going to give you a flood of resources and keep you in the fight. And that's how you use it. As far as the gear goes, most people know what it is. It's Hiss and Footman's. Hiss Spark is a craftable set that gives you good amount of physical resistance, but it gives you major evasion while blocking that 20% block chance. Since we are a block knight and that's what we're going to do, that adds up a lot. Because remember, every hit you get, you're going to lose stamina. If you avoid it, no stamina loss. You can also get this due to the medium armor passive here, evasion. Either way, I like the 5-piece set. Now it's craftable, so you get to pick your trait, which is also beneficial. Though there is a set called the Black Rose in the new year that gives you stamina back 20% chance every time you get hit. I haven't had enough chance to test that out to see if it works, but it might be a good alternative. But I wanted to make this build with gear that you already had available. Okay, so this is off of the previous meta, so I had infused before, but what I plan on doing is making this reinforced. You really do need the extra armor in this case, and I did go 7 heavy, because some of them bosses hit hard. So you're going to sacrifice a little bit of resources, but added armor and spell resistance is a must. You can also go Nirnhone if you don't have enough spell resistance. Get to that 33,000 mark. Whether it's champion points, gear, skills, you want 33,000 resistance. So that's the Hiss Spark 5-piece. I go basically chest, boots, legs, and then the weapon and shield. Also on the shield, you want to go reinforced or Nirnhone depending on what you're lacking. Then the 2-piece set that I have is the old Footman's, so gauntlet and belts. You still have a crappy exploration trait on the belt, but you have divines here. So if you're lacking a whole lot of champion points, you want to go divines on your small piece, on your shoulders, and on your boots if you can. Otherwise, go reinforced or Nirnhone. So to recap, if you can, reinforced or Nirnhone on your large pieces, head, chest, legs. That will give you a lot of armor. And then on your small pieces, go Nirnhone if you can't make it up. Champion points, you can do the same thing. Another key to this build is having reduced cost on your blocking. This will really, really, really help you. I do need to upgrade my rings, I know. I'm looking for them gold ones. So make sure that you get reduced cost and then do only one reduced magic cost. That will help you with the casting as long as you have a lot of champion points. So I go 7 heavy. You can go 5 heavy, 2 light if you want a little bit more reliability on your magic, but this works for me. It still works, it's still effective, and you can do all the content with this gear setup. And I don't even have best in slot. Another couple things, I don't run drinks anymore because I'm not getting stamina back. I do the food. Let's see, do we have any of the new food? Someone gave me the new food. Where is it at? Well, it's VR15. Another little tip that you can have for the VR15, start saving your provisioning crafting writs, don't open them. Why? Because you'll find the recipes inside of those. Pro tip. So I also use that, and in the Tri-Stat Panacea of Health, they are VR15 as well, and you can find those through the Talvor stone system. So you're going to be using stones to get your alchemy mats, and you're going to use your writs to get those provisioning. And that's basically it as far as gear goes. Now let's talk about champion points. Alrighty, I have a lot of champion points. On live, I think I'm up to 426. I should have been at 500 if it wasn't for this week's PTS testing. I spent a lot of time over here. And so, just to recap, green is essentially your resource regeneration, blue is kind of like your damage, and red is like defensive, okay? So, I do things way different than normal. Over here, I go almost all my points into Magician, reduce magic cost of spells. And then I do have some here into Warlord. The biggest thing, you would probably want to do a 3-to-1 ratio if you have a lot of champion points. So 3 points into Magician, 1 into the Warlord. Because we're not so focused on regeneration, we're focused on reduced cost. Because since we're going to wear a lot of heavy armor, this will make up for the fact that you're not wearing light. And then over here, I didn't put any into stamina recovery. I don't need a whole lot of stamina recovery. Why? I'm using ultimates, I'm getting Engine Guardian procs. That's what's going to give me my stamina back, not recovery. I'm no longer a werewolf, I'm no longer a vampire because I don't slot any of those abilities on my bar, and so I don't find a use for using those things anymore. I do have increased magic recovery. Why? Because I use the Atronach Mundus Stone. So that combination gives me good resource balance across the board. I did take some points out of this because I'm not getting CC'd a lot while blocking, and I'm not doing a whole lot of dodge rolling, especially with the dodge rolling nerf. Moving right along. Now, this is on the PTS, so I want to tell you a couple things. Blessed will do self-healing. That's great. And then this will make you have possibly a chance to self-heal crit. But remember, you're going to need to have a DPS setup. And I've been testing out the Bloody Butcher, bringing him back. So you might want to think about going over here into the physical damage tree, especially the Mighty, depending on what you're going to use, or Thaumaturge if you're planning on using a bow with poison damage. But if you wanted to know the absolute best thing to do, pump up Blessed. Moving right along. This is what makes or break the build. Block cost reduced by 25%. It is utterly amazing and will help you out tremendously. So they did nerf this activating a block grants you a damage shield every 10 seconds. At 600 points, I really don't see the need to get up to that 120 mark. But something here is very valuable. Increases the armor equipped shields by 75. So if you're lacking armor, use Reinforced Trait. Make that sucker legendary at VR16, glass, hopefully, and you'll have a lot of armor due to this one passive here. So try to get that 75 mark. After dodge rolling, you don't want to do a whole lot of dodge rolling, and then this actually is pretty good when you're bashing a lot. So if you're out of magic and you can't do anything, you have tons of stamina, just spam block. So I have 10 points into spell shield here because I'm not at that 33,000 mark. So if you don't have the 33,000 in spell resistance, put it there. I don't take anything here. And the reason why is I'm trying to get to the hard cap in armor. So I put a lot of points into here for heavy armor. But let's say you have that 33,000 because you're using reinforce on your shield. You have the latest, fanciest gear at VR16. You probably want to go back in here and put some points into Hardy and Elemental Defender. A lot of the bosses in mobs now are Daedric. So this might be very important. But getting that 30-point passive does help me if I'm rezzing. Not that useful, but let me just go over this again one last time. The most important thing is to reduce your magic cost. Don't waste points on stamina recovery because that's not how you get your stamina back. Blessed will help you out with self-heals, but you're going to need a DPS set eventually if you plan on doing all the content. So put some points in the Mighty. If you do have 120 points here, this is super helpful because it gives you major heroism, granting you 18 ultimate over 8 seconds. Occur every 20 seconds. So if you do dip below, you're going to get a flood of ultimate along with your Igneous Shields, along with your procs. This thing will help you out. And then the most important thing is block expert. So this, along with your enchants, will save your life. And that is basically the T7. High stamina. Someone asked me to grow up. Stop. High stamina, low recovery, focusing on alt generation. That's how you counter the whole stamina change. I don't know if the stamina change is going to stick, but if it does, we are prepared with this setup. There's never been a better time to be a Dragonknight tank. It's a lot of fun. You need a lot of armor, spell resistance, and you feel like a tank, not a damage dealing tank. And a lot of people aren't going to be willing to try this because it's very different, but you can do it with this build. No fancy new armor, no fancy really new spells or any tricks. Max stamina, champion points, and blending everything together for an awesome build. Thank you so much for watching. Trust me, I'm going to make class builds for everything in Update 7.